Little Big Man, directed by Arthur Penn, is a classic 1970 American Western that satirizes and defies its own genre. Looking at movies defines genre as the categorization of narrative films by the stories they tell and the ways they tell them. The film begins to twist expectations from its very first scene, wherein an idealistic sweeping shot of the Great Plains, typical of Westerns, is immediately interrupted by the burning wreckage and dead, bloody bodies left over from an Indian attack. It is here that we meet the film's protagonist, John Crabbe, played by Dustin Hoffman, a young boy whose coming-of-age story becomes the film's centerpiece. Throughout the film, we see John become and encounter many of the archetypes of Westerns, many of which the film turns on their heads and creates symbols from. First, we meet the tribe of Cheyenne Indians who take in and raise John as one of their own. The character of Old Lodgeskins takes on the archetype of the wise tribal leader and mentor. He represents the preservation of the humane Native American life idealized and eventually destroyed by the white man in the film. Additionally, his sometimes humorous and strange visions and antics, as well as the sometimes humorous behavior of the other tribe members, such as Young Bear's phase as a contrarian, satirize the romanticized idea many people have about Native American culture. In John's religious phase, we meet another archetype in his adopted mother, Mrs. Pendrake, played by Faye Dunaway, an actress Penn also used in his AFI Top 100 film Bonnie and Clyde. As John witnesses her character's fall from virginal Christian housewife to adulteress and eventually prostitute, he loses his religious identity just as quickly as he picked it up, and becomes yet another Western archetype, the swindler. This gives the audience their first glimpse into his character's flighty, opportunistic ways. Next, through John's phase as a gunfighter, Penn satirizes yet another typical Western character by calling attention to the way American culture has idealized vain, vengeful murderers into suave, justice-seeking heroes. The dethroning of classic Western heroes like cowboys, soldiers, and generals continues as the film gradually shifts towards darker themes. When John goes back to living with the Cheyenne, who call themselves human beings, the conflict of civilization versus wilderness comes into sharp focus. The innocent Cheyenne are driven off their tribal lands and needlessly slaughtered by the American settlers and troops. The sights and sounds of gratuitous violence, a tool Penn uses in many of his films, such as Bonnie and Clyde, have a deep impact on the audience. One of the most important shots of the film is the quick and disturbing cut of the bloodied face of John's newborn baby, accompanied by the sound of gunfire and his mother's scream. It is here that the audience sees the true cost of the blind greed and self-interest that goes hand in hand with manifest destiny and the American dream. Overall, Little Big Man is a clever and poignant take on the American Western that toes the line between sticking it to a genre and sticking to a genre. And while some critics argue that many of its characters, especially the protagonist, turn out morally ambiguous and unlikable, I think what's important about the film is that it shows that while there are certainly evil people in the world willing to do terrible things for personal gain, there are also good, noble people who are willing to make sacrifices for what they believe in. Nobody is perfect. We're all just human beings.